For half a century, there's been one company that put a computer on pretty much every desk and in every home, totally shaping how we work, play, and connect. But this is more than just a company story. It's really the story of the personal computer itself. This is our explainer on the history of Microsoft.
It all kicks off right here, back in 1975. Two buddies, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, spot this machine, the Altair 8800, on a magazine cover. Now, most people just saw a box of lights for hobbyists, right? But they saw something completely different. They saw a future where the software running on these new microcomputers was going to be way more important than the hardware. And that led to this wild bet. They dropped out of college to chase that vision down.
I mean, it's a journey that starts in a garage and ends up as a global tech empire. So how in the world did they pull that off? Okay, so we're going to hit the big moments, from the old-school command line days of MS-DOS to the absolute revolution that was Windows 95, which brought computing to everybody, and then finally to the company's total reinvention in the cloud-first era. Yeah, these are the real game changers for Microsoft.
All right, let's dive right in at the beginning. The first decade, it was all built on this one radical idea that honestly nobody else really got yet, that the software for these new personal computers was going to be way more valuable than the machines themselves. A pretty crazy idea back then.
Even the name they came up with, which was Paul Allen's idea, it basically spelled out their entire mission, Microsoft, a company built on software for microcomputers. It was a crystal clear mission statement right from day one.
So their very first product, Altair BASIC, was just a massive gamble. They coded it in only 8 weeks. And get this, they built the whole thing without even owning the actual computer. They were working off a simulator. That just shows you how much they were willing to risk right from the start. And spoiler, it paid off.
Okay, now this deal with IBM, you could argue it's one of the most important business deals of the entire 20th century. Seriously, Microsoft agrees to provide the operating system, MS-DOS, for the new IBM PC. But here's the absolute genius part. Instead of selling it to them, they licensed it, which meant they kept the right to sell that exact same software to every other computer maker out there. That one move, it created the standard for PCs everywhere and just paved the road for total domination.
So now that their operating system is basically the industry standard, Microsoft is ready for its next big thing. And that was all about taking the PC from this expert-only tool to something everyone could use. This era was all about putting a graphical window on every single desk.
And wow, was this a revolutionary change. Before Windows, you were stuck with MS-DOS. That black screen with the blinking cursor? You kind of had to be a wizard, typing in all these cryptic commands. Then Windows comes along and gives us the mouse, icons, you just point and click. For the very first time, computers actually felt, friendly.
All right, this next part is, it's pretty shrewd. Some might even say ruthless. While they were publicly partnered with IBM to build the next big thing, OS/2, Microsoft, on the down low, was pouring everything into its own project, Windows. And when Windows 3.0 was a massive success, they ditched the partnership in a move the industry nicknamed the head fake, and just left IBM completely in the dust. And what was the result of that huge bet? Just complete and total market saturation. I mean, think about it. By the 90s, if you were buying a PC, it almost definitely ran Windows. Over 90% of all personal computers in the world. That number is just staggering. And this incredible success wasn't just for Gates and Allen. The company's IPO in 1986 and its soaring stock created an insane amount of wealth. It's estimated that it made around 12,000 Microsoft employees millionaires. Can you imagine? It really cemented the company's legendary status.
But here's the thing. Just when Microsoft is at the absolute top of the world, a new force comes along that they almost completely missed, the internet. So what comes next is this frantic, super aggressive pivot to avoid becoming a dinosaur.
And this quote right here from Bill Gates' famous Internet tidal wave memo, this is the moment everything changes. In 1995, he suddenly realized that a little company called Netscape was a massive threat. He basically sounded the alarm inside the company, declaring an all-out war to win the internet. And oh boy, did they go all in. They launched the MSN online service to go head-to-head with AOL. They partnered with NBC to create the MSNBC News Network. But the real killer move? They started bundling their own browser, Internet Explorer, for free with every single copy of Windows. That one move basically destroyed Netscape's business and kicked off the infamous browser wars. So after the whole dot-com craziness, Microsoft hits this, it's a really challenging period. Under CEO Steve Ballmer, it felt like they kind of lost their way. They missed huge trends like mobile, but at the same time, they still managed to launch some ridiculously successful new things. It was a time of hits and misses.
A perfect example of the misses, the Microsoft Kin phone. It was supposed to be this cool social media phone for young people, but it was a complete and utter flop. I mean, they pulled it from the shelves after just 2 months. It was clear they just didn't get this new mobile world that Apple and Google were building.
But then, on the flip side, they proved they could still build massive new empires from scratch. Take the Xbox, launched back in 2001. It was this huge, risky bet that totally paid off, turning Microsoft into a powerhouse in the gaming world, right up there with Sony and Nintendo.
But what's really important to see here is that even during this messy lost decade, they were planting the seeds for their future. They launched the Azure cloud platform, they started making their own hardware with the Surface, and they bought Skype. These moves didn't seem like the main event at the time, but they would end up becoming the foundation for the company's entire comeback.
And that brings us right up to the modern era. So, in 2014, a new CEO named Satya Nadella takes the helm, and he kicks off what is, no joke, one of the most incredible corporate turnarounds we've ever seen, completely changing the company's focus.
I mean, just look at the numbers. They really speak for themselves. Under his leadership, revenue more than doubled, and the company's value shot into the stratosphere. After a decade of just treading water, this was a comeback almost nobody thought was possible.
So how'd they do it? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle was this super aggressive acquisition strategy. They bought Mojang, the creators of Minecraft, to get huge in gaming. They snagged LinkedIn to own the professional social network. And then there was the colossal, almost $70 billion bet on the future of gaming with the purchase of Activision Blizzard.
But really, the absolute core of this whole turnaround came down to a new mantra. Nadella basically pivoted the entire company away from its decades-long obsession with Windows and selling software in a box. The new game was all about cloud-first, mobile-first, focusing on cloud computing with Azure and subscription services like Microsoft 365. They were finally embracing the very world they had once tried to fight.
So when you look back, from a dorm room to total PC dominance, from fighting the internet wars to leading a cloud revolution, Microsoft has proven again and again that it can adapt and conquer. So now, as we're all diving headfirst into the age of AI, you have to wonder, what's the next great act for this 50-year-old tech giant?